Bam.
This is Tim Fitzgerald, and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
So Tim and I go back. Gosh, Tim, it's over 10 years now.
2013. Yeah,
that's right. And you know, the best story is when Tim and I have a passion for baseball, and by the way, we got Bunni above me from Locked On A's. Hey, Bunni, what's up, brother?
Hey, guys.
And so when Tim and I first connected, we were doing what was called the Midweek Mash. John Leon Guerrero and I, who founded the show, and Tim was doing the call for the Admirals. Now, before this happened, John's like, I'm going to try out to be an Admirals voice man. And you know, he had a good voice, but it was Tim that got it. But there was a little bit of like competition that, beat out John. We didn't know who Tim was. We kept getting preempted because Wednesday night games and the Admirals from Vallejo, this is an indie ball team, really cool thing. And Tim was involved, not just calling games, but helping run the organization. And so there was like this partnership, like, hey, why don't you have Pete and John come down to the ballpark, where the Admirals play in Vallejo, and call the game. And so we did this at least once, if not twice, or something like that. But it was a really fun thing. Yeah, it was fun. We did a lot more collaboration. It turned out we all liked each other, and so we just kept going. And Tim's been on the show in many forms over the years. And that first story is great. You should probably tell that, but just in general, man, I love it that you're on the show. Thank you so much. It's always wonderful to see you doing well. Always great to talk to you. I'm proud that I connect you to Joe Davis, and Joe Davis talked to you because Joe Davis is cool as fuck. All right, I'm shutting up now. Man,
that was a night. That was one of the wildest nights of my career in this, man, of broadcasting and play-by-play. That was, you and John, we were all doing a perfect, 4 or 5 innings. I think we were at that point. Just good old 3-person booth going great.
Yeah.
Talking about cream corn, I'm sure, in some place in Texas. And the guy's from, this guy's coming up he's from this town in Texas, doing our usual thing. And that season, the Admirals went through 2 ownerships. Like those early years, there was a lot of turnover. Like in my 5 seasons, 5.5, I went through 6 owners, 7 owners, I believe. Yeah. So a lot of turnover until those last couple of years. So it was that owner at the time, a very well-to-do, well-known person in Vallejo, California, barges in thinking we're the public address. And he's like, hey, you guys need to liven it up a little. Tell some jokes out there. You need to do this. He thought we were not radio, but we were public address. And no, we're radio. Public address is in there. And he storms in there and gives the same spiel. And our guy Bruce Jones, he had enough of the insulting he was getting, so he left. He told him, I think he called him an asswipe or something, and left. Bruce is like, tell me. So they're scrambling for PA. They bring the mic into us, and we start rotating on it, if I'm not mistaken, until there was a permanent solution that somebody filled in. But I just remember that being some of the wildest, that inning plus where that happens, some of the wildest moment. And it created radio gold. That 5th through the 6th that we did that night was fantastic. But it was crazy. I think John said, Pete, we've been told to liven it up a little. And
that's right.
And that was the beginning of something I was taught by David Alioto, who used to be the VP of the A's. He's in fact the guy who came up with, bringing your dog to the ballpark and all the goofy commercials from the early 2000s A's used to do. That was him. And he was commissioner in the Pacific Association in 15. And he's like, you have to teach these owners their role. Like they don't know. They come from something else. They're a real estate mogul. They're an oil tycoon, at the highest level that he was dealing with. They're a gap heir, whatever. You have to teach them their role, how to do this. And that set me on a good path of confidence of, hey, I'm the one who's trained for this. Like, I'm the one who's been in baseball. You need to listen to me or you're going to fail. And it would happen. And then one owner finally listened to me. Finally listened to Tim Fitzgerald. Let me see if I can get this in screen here. And then this little ditty came along once somebody finally listened. I got to hire a manager. I signed some players.
That is nice. Awesome.
So that gave me the utmost confidence, and I do know what I'm talking about, and it translates onto the broadcast now. And I think about those early days of you and I doing the shows together, Pete, and these baseball previews. Think how many of these we've done now. This.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I do want to bring a little bit of that into this because we used to do an annual thing. I also would say after John said we've been ordered to liven it up, the next sound heard on the air was me ripping a pop top on a Bud.
Classic Budweiser.
Because the owner had a few himself, and so we're like, all right, let's get a little bit rowdy. We didn't
play
break
the game,
the
right?
SEC rules or anything, but yeah, we definitely got
exactly.
shocked.
We kept it clean.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on. And of course, we got Bunni. Bunni's you were talking about the A's. He's the Locked On A's channel for that whole network, which is really neat. One of the things, Tim, I wanted to ask you about. So when we look at the regional, we're talking Major League Baseball now. The regional sport networks are sort of collapsing and trying to figure out how to do that. And I'm a proponent of baseball, the team specifically, selling some kind of rights package where you could do your own broadcast and you could all of a sudden be the voice of whoever you pay the license for. You can't charge $1 million for this stuff, but you could really diversify that market, and let people compete and be like, hey, I'll bring 50 of my friends and they can listen and make ad revenue. I'm saying 50, 1,000, 10,000, 1 million, whatever it is that you can haul in. I think there's value there.
I think you're seeing some third-party apps do that. I would never see a team do that. There'd be too much of a pissing contest, honestly. Like if I was the Cardinals broadcaster and all of a sudden, this offshoot can pop up over here, I'd be all, the hell they can. So, but you're right. I like that. I've seen third-party apps starting to come about where you can make your own broadcast like that. Remember when I had a Raiders podcast? Some of those were starting to come around. We were thinking about doing a live show of our own thing because we used to do a live draft show. We were thinking about doing a live game, but things changed in Raider Nation after that. So that didn't happen.
Get a little crazy out there.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Do you think minor leagues are going to start dismantling and going more to independent ball, like low A, maybe high A?
The lead rumor, I'll preface it with that. The kind of the feeling everyone has is that there will be another trim down of the affiliated umbrella at that level, at A ball, right. That it'll be smashed into one level of A, from low to high, just into one level of single A. And through these contractions, I've been torn with, I get it. Yeah, I see it from these owners' view, from the GM's view, I think even more so, but the owner too, not wanting to, spend on those next tiers of salaries, those guys down there. 4% of guys in A-ball get a cup of coffee. Your draft. I see it, and I see it at low A. There's guys who do not have a future at the highest level, but they're there. There's probably a good 15 of them, to be honest with you, depending on whose team you're calling for.
Sure.
If you're calling the Modesto Nuts for the Mariners, 2-time champs now, repeating, the Mariners system's pretty deep. So there's some out there like that where you're like, oh God, there's 15 who are gonna make it on this team.
Yeah, right.
Team, but I understand that, and one thing it does do is it does validate indie ball a little more. The guys who used to get drafted from the 11th round on now go there. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that'll help stabilize independent baseball. Like, I was talking about the rough early years of some of these leagues. It'll stabilize them. Even if I understand the pain of jobs lost, some of those aren't all filled at the independent level. Jobs lost, they get cut at that stage. Yeah.
But there's a real business model too, like the old days. First off, there's levels below single A, small A. There's rookie ball, there's Arizona League, there's Dominican League. So there's a lot of development leagues going on that are Major League Baseball funded. But maybe some of that work in that in-between gap could be filled, but should be filled by independent guys. And then the independent team can be like, you want to buy whoever from us? Sure. That's $250,000 or whatever that number is going to be. Who knows?
Yeah. Before Branch Rickey started the farm system, that's what it was. That's how it existed.
Right, exactly.
Before the farm system existed, that's what it was. They were just regional minor league baseball. They had their own guys, and that shows how long we've been sticking to that. The low minor league wages that finally have come up recently, that's based on what that minor league team pulls in. But it's like, no. It needs to be based on what your big league pulls in, because that's your guy you're out there trying to train and get up to your level.
There is
Timmy,
something to say about that investing. Oh, hang on, but let me
Yeah,
just go this.
yeah.
Oh, sorry
There is
about
something
that.
about investing in that player too. One of the things that, gosh, I can't remember his name right now, who just managed the Giants before. What's his name?
Kapler?
Kapler? Yeah.
Yeah. He brought that to the Dodgers. He's like, hey, these minor leaguers are valuable. Let's
Mhm.
not feed them chicken wings. Let's make sure that we're investing in these guys' well-being, get them on a workout program that's professional and designed by the organization, not just Jeff, the guy who's got his, the thing down at Planet Fitness. Like, let's really get serious about it. And it did change it. But then again, why not let those guys rise to the top and get into double A and high A or whatever it's going to be? I can see a model for that as well, where you just offshore or you contract out that development. And even then you can have a lot of influence on that thing, maybe even invest in that team possibly. But the current model, like you're saying, 4% cup of coffee, that's awfully expensive.
Yeah.
You're paying guys to stand around with the glove on.
Yeah.
That's what you're
For
doing.
depth, fill-in. They're fill-ins,
In the higher in the real prospects, like a Nick Kurtz isn't sticking around, low A, high A ball for too long. I mean, how long did he spend in Stockton last year at
7 games?
7
games. He hit 4 home runs and had a 1,500 OPS.
Yep.
And
He
went straight
conquered
to double A.
low A.
But it is fun. I mean, Stockton has a Naylor right now, and as far as local kids, they got the kid from Cal, Rodney Green, I believe. So in that sense, it's fun, and I like what Stockton's doing as well as far as the 10-man rotation. I think is what it is, right? Two 5-man. So they're trying some different things. The question I wanted to ask you is, in this level, how does culture get kind of built by team, right? Because it seems like a revolving door. How is a team designed to win when it seems like the whole goal is to develop, they get good, they get called up, you're in contention, now your best player's gone. So is that even something that's a goal for an organization, or is it something where it's like, hey, we're just developing and our goal is to get them up, and wins and losses is a distant second?
Depends on the organization. The Athletics don't care about winning at that level, so it makes me have to change. It was a big adjustment period for me last year. I had to change on how I view baseball. I had to shut off some of the things I normally think and expect and do, and the way I made the game notes. The game notes shifted from being about our record in this situation, that situation, to, hey, this guy's dad ran track as well at Illinois before being drafted sixth in the second round out of Michigan. So that sort of thing is shifted. That mentioned the Mariners. I mentioned with Modesto, Fresno is Colorado. They're all the others are pretty much trying. That was the adjustment for me. That things like you get either 5 innings or 75 pitches as a starter, whichever comes first. So you may be at 4 2/3, 68 pitches. Nobody on 4 2/3, 68 pitches. Yeah, you're done. We're making a change here.
Yeah.
So there's that, and I had to get used to that after a while.
You like that 10-man rotation?
I get what they're going for development of bulk innings. They're like, let's figure out if these 10 guys can start. Let's see what we got, giving them a lot of innings. We kind of know these guys profiled as 1 to 2 inning relievers. They'll fill the gaps. It puts a little bit much stress on those guys. Your standard, the guy who's going to work a 7th, 8th, 9th, if he makes it higher. That guy, we've kind of identified that's who he is already, and that's how you're using him, say in low A. It puts a lot of stress on those guys. They're used maybe more often than I would if I had a standard set of 8 dudes, maybe 1 to 2 long guys, and I get the idea of piggybacking. But we're also seeing that I get the other balance of, this guy's out of high school and he's here, so we're still building up his innings. This guy's fresh out of college, he's here, we're still building up his innings. I try to see that from the other side. I also see it teaching efficiency. Like 15 pitches an inning is the goal, to be less than that. I try to see that from their side. I see it could teach efficiency. They're having to build these guys' innings up. At some point, though, you do have to build these guys' innings up. That's why you're getting a lot of injuries in the majors. a guy hasn't thrown 150 even yet, maybe coming up, and now you're going to ask 170 plus out of him. Maybe he's only thrown 130 even in the minors. It's, so I get this level going for that, but at some point you have to teach winning, and it's a bit of an adjustment. Luckily, our front office is fantastic. It's dynamic, full of promotional superstars, because we have a real fun night at the ballpark, and I try to keep it fun. There was a stat that it was our first year having video on the broadcast
Right.
in Stockton this year, and we're not real good, so listenership wasn't real high, but our listeners stuck around longer than others. And I'm like, okay, maybe I had something to do with that. And the staff in the front office with the Ports puts on a really good time where people are like, oh yeah, we did lose, huh? To where that's at least the beauty of minor league ball at that level.
Is there a crossover between the UOP fans and the Stockton Port fans that are coming in?
I see them. There's a big crossover in our interns too. There's a bunch of them, and the full-time employees. I would say even too. There's quite a few that have, went to school there, come over. A lot of local Stockton folks who really want to put something cool out in that town at night in a really good-looking ballpark.
Yeah.
Some Sunday days as well. It's I took my dad and his wife there last year, and my family has come a bunch, and it almost made them change their minds. They want to do a tour of like big league stadiums when they retired. And they're like, I think we're gonna do minor league ones instead. And my dad was like, this is really great. So that's the beauty of the minors, is that cheaper ticket price and the the intimacy of it, the the feel of maybe seeing that guy before he becomes big time, and that community aspect of it. It's local community partners and things like that. All the stuff I did as a minor league front office guy, I see them do it. They do it right, and it's a fun night.
Yeah.
I watched that Rob Nair on the show the other day. He's the commissioner.
I watched a good chunk of that. Yeah.
Yeah. WCL, right?
Yeah.
They're ball yard for ball yard in that league. It's a summer league. It's it's like for prospects, college guys.
Yeah, but summer collegiate. Yeah.
You just look at it's like, oh my God, they're beautiful locations. And like you said, it's a wonderful thing. We often look down on indie ball or single A or whatever it is, but it's neat to go out and see those games. I went and saw one of Kershaw's starts at low A for the Dodgers when he was trying to come back. And it was great to see him. I'm curious. So all of that aside, like, it really is great to go watch. Like, if people are in Oakland, you want to go see the goddamn Ballers.
I've seen a ton of baller games. Yeah.
Yeah, you should.
And indie ball is awesome. It is so much fun, and you have so much access. If what you think you're missing from Major League Baseball, you'll find it in these smaller leagues. How critical can you be of these pitchers? Like, look, I'm hashtag not a scout, right? But I've watched a lot of baseball, and so I can watch a pitcher and be like, oh, you know what? He's starting to fatigue. So how critical can you be of these guys when you see them not pick it up, or they're failing to do whatever it is, or they're not reading the defense, or whatever it is going to be? How critical can you be of these guys without, you got to be fair, you got to tell the story, but you also got to be fair to them. They're learning.
Like Echevarria, for example. Yeah.
It's a balance of calling it like you see it. Should have made that play right there. That one got under his glove, and now a runner advances. But very much acknowledging it's single A, and they are still learning here. It's not that different. Like I called my last college game of the year tomorrow, Santa Barbara versus St. Mary's. And it's not that different from the college ball, the indie ball. It's a lot of their families are tuned in, like that's who you're going to be talking to at that level, especially. There's not 40-something thousand other strangers to these guys that I'm going to be talking to. So it's, maybe we do have Tommy White out of LSU. I bet some people tune in for him, but, I keep it very chill on the critical side. I'm in fact, in my pregame speech with them, hey, I'm your broadcaster. I'm here to call your games. Stockton Ports write my checks. I'm calling it for you. I'm going to help you learn media tricks and tips to climb levels. That's how much I'm here for you guys, to be your broadcaster. Teach them monkey on the back doesn't have anything to do with a weight on your shoulders. Little trips that they can have in the back of their head, like, I know better than this journalist right now. So things like that. So I try to kind of be in their corner more so than being too critical. But you know, if a guy's chase rate begins to climb, you're kind of like, well, at some point, if he wants to advance from here, he's going to have to learn to lay off of those sliders out of the zone. You know, that sort of just real talk without being berating anybody or critical. Just the facts, you know.
Yeah.
Does Tommy White have that it factor to him? I mean, everyone has the mullet, the beard, the look, the 3 home runs in his first game at NC State. I mean, I love a second round pick out of LSU.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be great. I don't know, but it seems like he has that it factor, that look, that if his game can follow, he could be a star.
He's got a real simple fix to his early little cup of coffee he's had coming into the pros now. Is just being selective within the zone. He doesn't have a whole lot to fix. Once he chooses his hot spots better, because in college he kind of just swung at strikes and they landed for him, you know.
He sure did.
Or landed on the other side of the fence a lot. So he's gonna have to be a little more selective. That was the difference. Some of the things he could, stick out into right, ends up a ground ball to second, or a foul tip into the glove. It's he's getting it. Like you could see, like, oh man, I used to do something with that pitch. Like, yeah, you used to. That was college. So let's pick this third plus this 3/4 of this strike zone here that's yours. And let's focus on those. And then he might take off because I think he looked better at third than some people thought he was gonna. I thought I don't think you have to move him to first. And they're right about him being not a fast dude by any means, but he's not there for that because he also is like Tommy Tanks was his nickname in LSU. He's also Tommy Two Strikes because with 2 strikes on him, he spreads out and he gets low and he sort of dangles his back leg and he shortens up his stroke. I'm like, looky there, a 2-strike approach from a youngster. How about that? So even for all the bombs, he's got the 2-strike approach where if he's selective, that dude could click.
He's going to be back at single A this year, right?
I think so. It depends on how their spring training goes. If they light it up, like, I don't know if we're getting Rodney Green Jr. back. Like some of these guys that if they had a dope spring, they might be starting up in Lansing. So up in Michigan. So that could happen. So, we're kind of waiting to see. I'll know in about a week.
Who did have the best spring for the A's this year? Now, granted, it was only 9 games and 6 at bats, was Junior Perez.
Oh yeah, he did.
4 of 6, 6 and 7. He had a bomb today. He squared everything up. So I think he's going to be in Midland this year. But yeah, he was good.
That's at least good to see. That the fact that he can maybe hang up here. Yeah.
When you look at the organization and calling it, you got all these guys, these kids, we'll call them, from UOP, and. Again, like it's easy to look at someone who's in low A, bottom, like, oh, that's low A, whatever. But you can hear you talking. You know what the hell you're talking about, right? You've done it. You've doing it at the college level. You did it at the Indian. You've put in your time, and you probably are way better at watching a game and breaking a game down now. What are you teaching these kids? And is it possible for them to follow you? And who's teaching you? Like I don't know how close you're keeping in contact with Joe Davis, but how are you learning from the people above you who have already been there?
Oh, let's see. Let's start with what I'm giving them. I am definitely just trying to teach them how to be a professional first and foremost for any young broadcaster that's kind of working with me. The ins and outs, going in and out of break. There's certain things that just come with these are the formalities that I used to be bad at. Right? Like, if I know I needed to fix this in my first season or two, but this kid, yep, he needs this. Okay. The little formalities of how to do these little things that you're supposed to do, but then also how to have some fun, how to be entertaining, how to make a viewer want to stick around in 8-0 deficit in the 6th inning. So I think that's important. A lot of broadcasters lack that. That's a little tougher, much like The Voice is, a 60 time or hitting 93 at least. That's got to have that. You gotta then you got to be able to tell some stories, and that's some of that. That's some of that intangible value, I guess, maybe, or something that is equivalent for a player. So teaching them how to liven it up a little, Pete.
Yeah.
Basically. So,
rip a beer.
Yeah, exactly. And then every game I'm listening to, every little thing I'm learning something. Even the guys who have been in the California League longer than me, Steve Wendt, Mike Lindskog, over at Inland Empire and Rancho, like those guys, and certainly my little bit of interactions with people like Joe Fleming, and just definitely ears up, notebook out, just always sort of soaking in everything, and in every moment of interaction I get with those up at higher levels from me, or those who have worked with people in higher levels from me. And this background right here that's Cecil Fielder. Hold on, wrong
Nice.
cover. That's yeah. So, just asking them about even the former players, kind of get their opinion on some of the broadcasters they worked that covered them.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. I worked last year in the press box for the Oakland Ballers, and
Nice.
we had an announcer from Colorado come over, and he was the biggest homer you could ever imagine, right? I mean, it was just when I started listening, it brought interest and intrigue. I constantly listened to him with regard to his takes, no matter how ridiculous they were. I continued to listen, and I found how he described them. And no matter how biased he was, I liked what he was doing as far as the entertainment value. Is there a strategy to that? Is there something that a style to that, or what do you believe is the right way to go about that when you are broadcasting something like in Stockton?
Whatever's natural.
Is that right? Okay.
Don't ever try to force or be, because if I tried to be like Joey Zanaboni, or a rocket socket popping like it wouldn't come out right. That's not me. I'm much more Carlin meets Costas, or out there doing a little more SNL monologue type. Like that's what's comfortable for me. That's what keeps people entertained for me. Like kind of like I'm doing stand up out there, telling stories mixed with my talk radio experience. I'll go on a rant. Like I've got all these topics ready from the off season that if whatever the score gets a little out of hand, we're going to talk ABS challenge system, pitcher injury study. Does that affect the 5-and-fly strategy at this organization or higher? The starter minimum idea, the double hook, golden AB, these TV deals. Like I got all this stuff piled up and ready.
Wow.
Just to talk baseball. R.I.P. Ricky. Just all ready for that. That's my style. And if that's his thing to kind of go loud and homery, or how you're describing it, then as long as that feels natural and the people like it, like they'll let you know, like you'll get asked to not come back, like they won't renew you. It'll be obvious, and that's how you know.
Is there a way?
Ron Santa was a huge homer, and he was great, but he's also from Chicago. He's of Chicago, and so
and if you're a former player. That's a little different too when you're just a broadcaster. Like, Hawk Harrelson, or for me back home it was Mike Shannon. Like you expected that. And sometimes as the broadcaster you got to keep it. But it's also who writes my checks. Like you can hear it. Like you hear it in, like if a network's writing my checks, I'll be real good and neutral for you. Even if it's a team I've worked for out there. But you can't. I'm going to call it for who's writing my checks, for who I'm working for. Like my home run call is the same words said in a different tone, depending on how it happened. It's if it's the other team hitting a no doubter, that is a deep fly ball. There is a fly ball into deep left field. This ball is way back and this ball is gone. If it's no doubter for us, very different, swinging along and into deep right field. That ball is way back. That ball is gone. That's just, it's something natural to whoever writes my checks, man. I got you.
Yeah. Kurt swings, hits it to Lansing. He better go get that ball. Sorry, Bunni, I cut you off, man. Go ahead.
No. I was going to ask, I know you were at St. Mary's, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about NC2A baseball. Do you think there's a way where NC2A baseball can be marketed better, where the audience increases? Obviously, there's rarely any national attention on NC2A ball until you get to the College World Series or even the regionals. Do you think NC2A or schools are missing something on that? Because there's nothing right now as far as NC2A baseball.
Yeah, I think there'll at least be a trickle down effect of the the way the draft has been shortened
Yeah.
and the way they're trying to speed up how quickly a guy gets to the majors. You're seeing the college guys get picked a little more at least. So maybe there'll be that trickle down effect of, as the draft maybe gets a little more attention at the major league level as some of these guys who have, get a shot to advance quicker. Maybe that helps sort of trickle down effect. It's tougher because of the resources to put that out there aren't easy either. And a lot of times, um, there's so much change I think going on in college baseball right now too that it's making
Yeah.
it tough to focus on that. It's great that there's no longer 11 and a half scholarships. You can have 34 of them now.
Yeah.
But I know the SEC is going to fill that 34 a lot more easily than the WCC will.
Yeah.
So that's going to create, while it's cool, that's great. Boy, is that going to increase the gap a little bit of the haves and have-nots. And then you got a weird thing where, you can have 35 dudes in the fall, but only 34 or 36 in the fall, 35 to where two guys could maybe mid-season transfer. That could be kind of weird too, because they don't end up with a shot in the spring after fall ball. So they're going through some weird stuff. It's very regional. Some of these places aren't really even like St. Mary's is just now, since the new stadium opened this past year, ready to hey, let's bring the outer community in to this comfortable seating we have now in a concession stand. It's always there. And, this,
Yeah.
even that doesn't always exist at that level. It's a good question. I feel like that's baseball is just one of those regional neighborhoody things in sub levels.
Yeah.
That's how it gets it. I guess it's the same thing that affects the minors.
Sure.
And there's probably some leeriness of getting too crazy promotionally with NCAA rules. I'm sure that plays the compliance side, I bet plays a big part of trading with sponsors and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
has to very much go
Sure.
through the Learfield property stuff for St. Mary's for sure. It's a little more rigid.
Speaking of St. Mary's, how's Waldachuk? Is he going to be a player? I was surprised the A's didn't put him on the 60-day DL, which kind of told me that, hey, they plan on bringing him up. What's your thoughts on Waldachuk?
I like him a lot, and I got to interview him in the A's dugout the year he got traded to them and made his debut.
Yeah, Yankees, yeah.
And Ken Korak gave me a big thumbs up after that. He thought I did a great job. So
I had Ken Korak on the show a couple weeks ago.
Nice, excellent.
Fun. Yeah.
Waldachuk, his stuff is really good. It is just going to be about staying healthy and even how to use it at this level. That he was still learning that, and then you pile on the injuries with it is tough. He's an easy person to root for. I'll tell you that. Boy,
Okay.
I hope it works out, man, because I really like the kid. I hope he just can stay healthy. It's just one of those things that, unfortunately, front offices know and use well. The best indicator of future injury risk is their previous injury history, unfortunately.
Boy.
Yeah. And so you hope it's like, oh, okay, well, it happened just, a couple times while he was young and getting up to this level. It happens. It seems to happen to everybody once now. And some big shoulder or elbow thing happens, and then they come back better. So we'll see if he has that situation for him too, because the stuff is awfully good.
Okay.
Do you ever dig into the medical journal articles, as part of your research and your little list of topics? I mean, I do. I like to read them. And then when you look at the numbers of Ohtani's on his third elbow, right? And he's not starting the year as a pitcher.
No.
It is exceptionally hard and rare to come back from that second Tommy John.
Yeah.
And even when you do, the quality is usually less, almost universally less. And then the length of time at that elbow, that third elbow holds up, it's just not very long, right? And so do you look at that to understand? I read this really neat one, Tim. You'll appreciate this. If you have a high-end player, now look, we're talking players who are like Ohtani. Like if these guys are running and sliding at full speed into a base, they get X number of those, and then their opportunity for risk, like a major joint injury, it jumps from it could happen to imminent. We saw that last year in the World Series when
sure, the number of tries you're rolling out there is at some point. Yeah, it's
and so, and look, it's a journal article. Not everybody's going to read it, even the vaunted Dodgers and all their data. Maybe they missed that thing, but it's such extreme risk. So, are you paying attention to these other kind of areas to help us all understand what it means to be a player in single A and trying to develop and stay healthy, or whatever it's going to be?
I've definitely read anything that has come up from any publication about studies on pitcher injuries, player injuries, athlete injuries in general. At one point, before going back into this, my safe job that I took in for a while in my 20s to early 30s before going back into sports was as a health journalist and editor. And, I did bits about sports medicine, some stuff. So it's I'm always paying attention to those, and there's always been the theories about curveball usage versus fastball usage, and certainly about the study that came out this past year on, well, it's about trying to throw this dang hard. That's really, I hate to tell you, everyone, this is what it is. And same with you not building up, like we talked about earlier, not building up their innings or workloads enough to be ready to pitch in major leagues. So that's I always keep track of that, and I keep it in mind with the players, because it's everything. Your health really is everything. I've learned that was a big change, I think, from fan to person in the industry, of understanding the health side of it, how if they're not right, how they can't be right, and maybe the fan isn't treating them right, unfortunately, based on that. Like, they have no clue, and he's not telling anybody about what's going on in his shoulder.
Right.
Things like that. I try to be very conscious of a guy that pitched out of University of Chicago, Illinois, this guy Charlie Cherney, and when I was just filling in back in 23, and I look in, he's coming back from thoracic outlet surgery. I see. Okay. All right. So I'm going to see that through this lens. You're absolutely right, Pete. I'm going to be like, okay, this is his first year back. They're trying to give him some days, as I'm just looking in it, as we're at break, as he's coming in, throwing. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So you come at it knowing that, wow, this guy's trying to come back from that here right now.
We see like
so
much. Like Freddie Freeman, who's got this rib injury and an ankle injury, and the Dodgers are like, just chill out for right now, because once you get in the season, you're not gonna be able to keep him off the field. He won't allow it. Yeah. And so that time he might take to heal, it's over. And now it's adapting to that level of health that he'll be at. And you see this, especially the majors, because your job is beyond the field. So these young guys coming up are trying to emulate that. It's like, my shoulder hurts. It hurts every spring, or it doesn't matter if it hurts. I'm going to go pitch. And yes, my elbow was feeling loose, but like Gonsolin pitched a lot of starts on basically a dead elbow. He was able to get through it until it's shredded completely. That's a big thing, and these guys are learning the same. Look, everybody wants to be tough. No one wants to be soft, but if you're hurt, you're hurt, Yeah,
the best ability, the availability thing. And, they know that's why you're afraid to go into the knife. Or to admit that it's that bad. You don't want to get shut down for the year. Like, it's like, if I'm not out there, who knows what happens to my future? And unfortunately, it's it's on their mind. You try to block it out as much as possible, but it's kind of always floating back there for these guys.
Sure.
Do you buy into the idea and thought, speaking of injury, that the Tommy John surgery is actually? I mean, there's been talks that kids and they want to get the Tommy John surgery because it supposedly makes you stronger. It gives you the rest you need, so forth. So I don't know,
No, it's the rehab. It's going through that rehab. You just put in that work. You need a Tommy John. Do the Tommy John. Go to the rehab. I bet you'd be like, oh gosh, I wish I didn't have to do this.
Yeah,
because it ain't easy. It's go do that, and then you'll get the same sort of result. That's what it's about. Where you maybe come back throwing harder the first one, but then Pete's right. The second one. Like, I think Walker Buehler's going to be okay this year. I think he does well.
Right?
He was kind of starting to flash that, and he apparently showed it a bit in the rehabs. Yeah. So it's like, okay, but then it goes back to the other point. How long does it last from here? Like, he doesn't have another 5 years. I don't, like, there's
no way. No. Yeah. Right. I mean, you think about Ohtani's first two elbows did 75 starts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Rob and I were talking about this too. Like, no matter what Ohtani does, he will never equal Babe Ruth in terms of hitting and pitching. That it's over, right? And it doesn't mean he's not wonderful. And I love him. I want to see him, but we get so crazy about this.
Maybe I'm thinking of his first, because Babe Ruth didn't pitch that long, and so I'm trying to picture Ohtani's first few years pitching as well.
But he had more healthy years. than
Yeah.
Ohtani did. And that's the problem. And when he was in his 20s, it's it just gets to be hard. But we put these unrealistic expectations. But the fact that Ohtani recovered at the MVP level all last year from Tommy John is bananas in and of itself, right? But you only get so much of that. And then baseball gods come and collect you, just like Bo Jackson, like what we think about, what we remember are the highlights. We don't see that run into the hole where a one arm trips him up and he falls down with the 2.5-yard gain. There's a lot of that in Bo's career, right?
Oh, yeah.
We do remember those 90-yard runs, though, and we're so excited about it. And so there is I guess I want to get into the fan thing a little bit, and then I want to talk about future baseball. But
okay.
One of the things, and we'll just be critical of the A's here, how much data is in your guys' game? And then, I love numbers, you know that. But there is a point where when you trade Josh Donaldson away, it cut the fans in a way that they have never recovered from. And so you have to make good decisions, right? But what's a good decision in this case? Would it have been better to keep Donaldson and maybe open that championship window a little longer? Probably, maybe, I don't know. Or would the A's fans have been mad no matter what? So there is a cost for making these, especially the risk reduction. Like, hey, one time through the lineup, 2 times, okay, but not 3. And then you're like, but we want to see him go for the no-hitter. And we deny that passion, So there's a cost for making the better decision. And I'm doing better quotey fingers.
Yes, there's two things there. You're talking about, not being able to keep your stars as they just get arbitration eligible. Like the A's front office had a mandate from ownership. This is our budget. Get under it. And okay, well, I guess I got to move this arbitration eligible guy if you want me to chop 12 mil off right here, right now. So, so that's what ends up happening. And that's at the whole crux of the issue with the haves and the have-nots of the coasts versus the centrals. The AL and NL Central, they tend to lose their guys as they hit free agency. They're not keeping them. There's some natural roster churn that happens, but they all leave for the Dodgers and the Mets and the Yankees. And, there's some concern about that, and that there should be a balance of, okay, well, you're New York and LA. You should be in New York and LA. Like, you're going to have some advantages that come with New York and LA. And they deserve to have those advantages. And then, there's others where you're like, ooh, but how do we think about the league as a whole? How do we keep the league's entertainment dollars fighting other entertainment dollars, not Detroit's versus Chicago's and Denver's with LA's? And how does Major League Baseball acquire the spending dollars? So, or, people's dollars, and maybe they think it's fine to have that, but I think there is something to still do, because clearly the compensatory, like the pick punishment, you have to give up a draft pick if you sign the guy. Yeah, okay. Right. If you already have a good farm system like the Dodgers, they don't seem to care. And then, within game, the whole yanking a guy out too early, that's one of my old school. I got some stuff I'm new school about. I got some stuff I'm old school about. Same. That's one of my old school ones. Like, I believe in the quality start, which used to be a new fandangled thing. And, now that's old school. So I do want to see that through. There is a balance, though. Going for a no-hitter at 140-something pitches is clearly bad for you. Throwing 230 plus is probably bad for you. We've seen, you can go through Felix Hernandez, his fan graphs. Every year he throws 230 or more, his velocity drops the next year. Then if he doesn't throw it, then it stabilizes. Like, you're going to have some hosses, your Bob Gibsons and your Nolan Ryans and your Randy Johnsons and modern ones, and that can do that. But it's not for everyone. So I get, going past 120 something in a game. Oh boy, it's the only reason you would go for it. And I we've talked about, Pete, some of those guys were happy to make that trade-off. Being like, you had that no-hitter. I threw way too many pitches. I never really recovered for it, but I got that no-hitter.
I got that no-hitter.
Yeah. But it goes back to that, where do things change from here? Are we going to actually aim for less velocity to extend out longer, not blow out our elbows?
I hope so.
I don't know. You want to change the way the game's played? You change the way guys are paid. Like that's
Yeah.
always been how it works. That is always how
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
Guys will do what you fiscally reward them for. So
Yeah.
if you start putting a better price on innings over strikeouts per 9, now that's probably how you change it outside of rule changes.
When Rob and I were talking about, Major League Baseball doesn't want to spend a bunch of money on pitchers getting hurt. That's bad business. So they're trying to figure out what to do and how to do that. And for a long time I've said, like, let's have a speed limit, and just, you can throw 2 100-mile-an-hour pitches, whatever, 3, 4, 5, whatever it's going to be, right? and then after that, it's no pitch. No harm, no foul. But you're going to have to do that again. And because look,
that would happen naturally back in the day. Guys maybe sitting at 94 most of the time.
Right.
He's like, all right, 2 on, 2
rev
out.
it up,
I'm going to hit 96.5 here right now. And, that was the end of his night, maybe, or the end of that inning, at least the end of that jam. It was what happened. He just didn't cruise there.
I'm going to make a prediction. We're going to start a prediction segment. Dustin May will blow out his elbow. I don't want that to happen, but that's the thing. Like, if you throw 103 and the ball darts this way, I mean, I remember watching Gagne. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to blow his elbow out. Zumaya, Matt Anderson, all these guys. Maybe not Farnsworth, but all these guys.
Some guys have a fluid delivery that have survived it. Others got a lot.
But that's like the first predictors. If you're breaking a $1 something and the ball's sliding vertically or horizontally a lot at 100, your arm is not long for the game. There's just no way.
Like, how long?
And if it is, you don't know you're that guy until 20 years later. You're like, hey, my arm feels fine. Some guys are rubber.
Yeah.
Aroldis Chapman stayed pretty healthy.
Yeah.
He's had a career.
There's guys that have stayed that can throw that way and have stayed healthy, but I guess it goes back to not everybody. Not everybody's built for that. It can't be universal. Right. But I get it. It's one of the things I get again. Yeah, throwing 97 is harder to hit. Like, duh. And your slider goes 89. Like that velo, it is the difference maker. The manager I got to hire in Vallejo, if he sent me scouting somewhere, I had a minimum miles per hour. It was nothing below 87 at that level, and then as he's where he is now, he's probably like, okay, nothing below 91, 92.
Is that Pedro Guerrero?
No, that's PJ
Mike
Phillips,
Marshall?
who's now managing the Atlantic League. So, that's there's certain velocity is effective, and it's true. It's just finding that balance again. We're finally reaching a balance of where it used to just be analytics. It was everything. It was the final decision maker. They were all analysts who ran it. A bunch of Ivy Leaguers at the top. That was it.
Yeah.
Now we're at least like, okay, well, we got to balance that in. And now former baseball people, so it's not all just computer engineers. There's like some guy who played 4 years of college ball, just didn't get drafted. He's now going into analytics and player development. And that's helping. We're getting to where Buster Posey's at the top. And he's got analytics below him. Same with the Texas Rangers. Young's at the top, and the same with the Washington Nationals. I like that model a little bit more personally, but I get if you still have the Ivy Leaguer guy at the top, making those calls too. That the Cardinals are headed that way with Chaim Bloom about to take it over. So there's a prediction that sometime in the next 5 years we get to where it's almost like we don't even think about analytics anymore. It's just like, his bat average balls in play is this. And then, it's where it's common. It is the back of the baseball card, and to where it's fought less and it's also not treated like the end all be all. I think we're going to get to that balance here pretty soon to have some other new cultural war problem.
Tim, do you think baseball's missing it a little bit on just the art of getting guys out? Like, for example, like a Greg Maddux, for example, would not be looked at the same way today based
because there's
on
something for hitting your spot, not just 97 and I guess it's a strike, probably a strike, but
just getting guys out
exactly where I want to put it.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for the not just the art of putting it where you want it when you want it, just the deception part of this. You don't have to throw 115 miles an hour to get a guy out. I understand the thought is strikeouts are controllable, and if you put a ball in play, a 30% chance it's going to be a hit. Let's reduce the number of those that happen. However, now it's costing us millions of dollars in new elbows every year. I mean, how many pitchers just went on the under the knife for the White Sox? It was like 6 of them. I mean, obviously the spring training end of it, they're going to announce, but it's I remember watching Timmy Lincecum go for that last no hitter that he got, by the way. Everybody watching, and I was like, man, this could be his. And it wasn't his last time on the mound, and he was still pretty decent after that. But it's like a horror show. You know, you don't want to see it. Other times, I want to see it though. I want to see that gunslinger out there digging deep.
He was something else. Yeah, you're right.
That's tough. I try to picture myself in that situation. If I'm in, depends on where I am and how far into the game, man. I'm in at 115 pitches, just knowing like, I guess it depends on the state of my career too, and what this organization that has given me a big old bonus, perhaps is sticking, or if I was a 13th rounder and. Then they might let me just roll. That happens too. They'll be like, let's do it. I don't care.
This could be your one shot.
Yeah.
Baseball's it's a power game. It's throw as hard as you can, hit it, swing as hard as you can, hope the ball goes as far as you can. But in the process, we're missing out on guys like an Oral Hershiser, for example, that that were characters of the game. Just the Bulldog, which happened to be his nickname too. And that's what I missed a little bit.
Yeah, there was a guy with the Ports right after the draft out of Rutgers, Joshua Kuroda-Grauer, and contact, and not a slow dude. He played second and short, like he's that dude, and he led I think finished second in batting average in the NCAA last year, and so he's kind of Luis Ariz with better wheels, and Pete. I
got time for that.
Yeah, you and Rob, you don't have to have a homogenized lineup. You can have different people do different things. And I think that's maybe something that got lost a little bit with the analytics. It was, I remember they would say something about, if you're just sorting lineup by OPS, you should have Albert Pujols as your leadoff man. I'm like, okay, but it's not going to do that. Like, I'm still going to put Fernando Vina there if you don't mind. And then Albert can after, So, it's Tony Womack will bat leadoff for me, please. Thank you. And then we'll go from there. So, there's definitely the league got homogenized, and that's something that the A's kind of have to take a little bit of blame on, a little bit, like they kind of played a large part in the three true outcomes. Ugly up for a minute there. Three true outcomes didn't phase me as much as the time between pitches. I was super pro pitch clock as long as you had limits on the pickoffs and the step offs.
Agreed.
Yeah. I was like, that bugged me way more than three true outcomes. Even if, though you're right, Bunny, that's the homogenized lineup, they came with too many. There was only one way to do it. I don't like that new school or old school. There's only one way you always bunt here and you always do this here and you always swing this way. Just have these edicts in baseball that we get a little stuck on ourselves in. These.
Well, and this is part of that Moneyball thing is like, you don't want Ichiro? Okay. I'll take Ichiro. You think he sucks? That's not a problem. And a guy like Luis Ariz, he creates a problem the other team cannot solve. You are not going to strike him out. So you're going to have to deal with the fact that this guy's going to hit a line drive. Yeah. You're going to have to figure out where to stand, and I like that problem that creates pressure.
Let him
because
be
you're
that
not
problem.
Afraid of him, but you're not going to stop.
Tatis be a different problem. You don't have to have one dude throughout your lineup.
I think guys like that and the whole Moneyball process, by the way, I don't believe in the Moneyball process. That's my little opinion. But I mean, for example, but it's to Pete's point, right? How is Luis Urias or that type of player that doesn't hit home runs, that gets on base, that hits for a great batting average? Mm-hmm. How is that like a bargain? I mean, it's baseball's fault. That's a great player. And I think it's baseball's fault for looking that way. Then all of a sudden they put a title and a great marketing type of idea with it, and the fans buy into it, and it turns into something that, in my opinion, it's really not, because that player is really, really good.
It became that end all be all, that power is the answer. Yeah. You were wondering, Pete, what do we call this era when you're talking to Rob? And it's the power era, the velo era, the velo. Exit velo, or the how you're throwing it. It's the velo era, and it's
not even a word.
Yeah, but it's said like a word in the baseball world. That's for sure.
Right.
And it just power is preferred, and that's what we're gonna fiscally reward. Guys that get paid that way. How you pay them is how they'll play it. So it again goes back to that. If we start rewarding contact a little more, but unfortunately the analytics said Boom. And that became the end all be all, not all. Oh, okay. Yeah, we should try to get as much power as possible. But I'm still going to get this Luis Ariz fella, too. Like, blending these worlds together. We've been on extremes. The old school resisted the new school, and that left them locked out of it. And thus, new school got to kind of run wild. Like, and show the owners, look how we can save you money. You're hired. You know, like that was, look how we can increase your attendance. We're going to measure it by wins because that bumps up your attendance. So we're going to call it war. And then this is how we're going to save you money. Done. Like, that's all owners understood. So
save me money. You said
because
save
the
me
old
money.
school baseball guys, that computer can't tell you nothing about it.
You're 100% right.
And they left it shut out. That's why it's at least now there are former ball players who know analytics, and that's who's really going to succeed. Don't fight it, guys. Keep up or get left behind. So that's critical.
My old man thing is, look, Aaron Judge doesn't need protection. He will kill and he will eat. He is the protection. Stop saying you need Benito Santiago to protect Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
He cannot protect Barry Bonds. Nobody could. You know, Barry was going to get walked. He would swing 4 times in his series and have 2 home runs, a double, and a single. You know, like
he was unreal.
You don't protect that guy. Aaron Judge should not bat leadoff, everybody. Yes, you want him to get more at bats, but also if you can take anybody and make them a shade better because you know that you don't want to pitch the Judge with the guy on base. Hey, this guy's going to groove you some fastballs. And maybe it's 5 hits a year, but there are 5 hits that Aaron Judge got you through looming, you know?
It's the same dorks.
It drives me crazy that they hit these guys
dorks
first.
who are all about the same guys who are all about the opener, but are willing to punt the first inning offensively. Like, you know, because really that's what you're doing. You're not putting on a couple people. It's like you're just thinking ahead for the 4th when your 6th and 8th guy got on for like, what are you doing? Like, no, you hit him at least second, probably 3rd. But
like, I hate how Kyle Schwarber leads off. Stuff like that.
I don't get it. And the Cardinals had that guy in Matt Carpenter for a while because that was where he did well. That was the problem. We tried to hit him in other spots, and luckily he had a 4-something on base percentage, and so that was. But he only powered up a few years. Where Schwarber, that's just who he is, right? And
my favorite number.
It goes back to that whole theory. Just put your OPS guy at the top.
Right. My favorite number between Schwarber and Ariz. Maybe you heard me say this to Rob. But like I'll say, Ariz sees a lot of pitches, and then the people who are sort of good at numbers will say, "No, he doesn't. Look at his rate." And I'm like, "Look at his pile of pitches seen." By the way, the difference between him and Schwarber, it's all of those strike threes. And so Schwarber's just seeing 3 strikes more, right? And so when you take that out, all of a sudden they're equal. And I got to say, I'd rather have Ariz, not always, but I'd rather have him chewing up pitches and getting on base.
I agree with you.
And he's just it's like Brett Butler. You remember how great he was?
Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah.
Just a grind.
You have a guy like that, you can't get out, steals bases, bunts. The entire infield would have to creep in, and he'd still be brushing himself off on first base.
No one cares about strikeouts anymore.
Yeah. I think I'm hoping, and see, now I'm hoping we're in that transition, right? I'm not even sure if the sabermetrician, the analytics folks are finally like, okay, I guess a strikeout isn't the same as any out. Like, I feel like, or at least they've been pushed back enough by the baseball people to where it's like, we're not going to think that way. We're going to at least still blend in again, back to the blend. Like, we're not going to fear it as much as we used to, but stay out of a double play. But at the same time, you gotta get people on, and that you can't just stand there to get on.
No one realizes that Zach Geloff was 2nd in strikeouts in all of baseball last year, led the American League, because no one cares about strikeouts anymore.
I get as long as you're hitting 30-something bombs with them.
Yeah,
that's
unfortunately.
They're like, hey, you can strike out 35% of the time. Are you hitting 35 bombs too with it? Oh, okay, all right. Yeah,
let's do some predictions. Let's go like MVP, Cy Young, and then division winners. Unless you guys have something else you want to predict, but stick to the classic things, and we'll see how we do later on.
Okay.
You want to go first, Tim, or you want a second to think about it?
Yeah, give me a second to think about these. I want to hear what you guys got.
Bunni, you're up. Hot seat. Boom.
Okay, what are we doing? Which MVP?
We have 6. Yeah, MVP, both leagues.
MVP, both leagues. American League, Lawrence Butler.
Okay.
National League.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Homer.
National League. National League's gonna be a little bit harder. Fernando Tatis in the National League.
Okay, Tatis. I like it.
Cy Young,
Cy Young?
Skubal, American League.
Okay.
It's not very much. I'm going on a limb. National League. Oh, am I going to go within the National League? Let us go with. I'm going to go on. I'm going to give you. I think the Padres going to have a. No, you know who I'm going to go with National League? Who's looked really good this spring? A former Cy Young Award winner, Robbie Ray.
Robbie Ray.
Okay.
He's looked incredible this spring. Now a little out there, but
that's what's fun about it. And who are your division guys? Who's winning
division?
The
Division. I am going with the A's in the West. I've called it all year. They're just a really, really good team. Not just me being a homer. I'm going Orioles in the East, and I am going with the. Who am I going to go in the Central? Kansas City in the Central.
Oh, wow.
The West, I am going to go National League. I'm going to go with the Dodgers. National League East, I'm going to go with the Phillies. And in the National League Central, I'm going to run it back with the. I like their culture. The Brewers.
Okay. Tim, you want to go next? Or you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll. On my AL side, Witt does win this MVP this time. He actually would have gotten my vote if I had one last year. Judge was great and all, but I would definitely say Witt. NL side is a little tougher to pick an MVP type out of this. Boy, I hate to think. It's like, okay, who's going to be better than Ohtani? You know what? Let's go with now because he's going to end up. All right, it's the problem. MVP is going to go to somebody on a playoff team that's big star. So it might just be Ohtani again. Hate to say it, but if it's not Ellie De La Cruz, then he's going to end up like the Hank Aaron Award winner, like that one. Yeah. NL East will be the toughest to call. I feel the Philly call. That makes sense. I'll probably go with that. But boy, the Braves going to be nipping on the heels.
Oh, yeah.
And then the Mets, maybe all the money works this time. So that's three playoff teams come out of the East. There'll only be one in the Central, and it's probably Milwaukee again. They just they're too good at. Okay, yeah, we let that guy walk, or we traded this guy, and everybody thinks they're going to die, and they're just no, we're fine. Like
we're always right there.
We have new draft picks that we play. They are that team. Yeah. So, and then the West, it will be the Dodgers. And one, boy, I think Arizona too. Oh boy,
Arizona's good.
That's because the Padres. Boy, that's a tough one too. That West is pretty tricky. The Central's
you don't got to pick the wild card. It's crazy.
It's Cleveland again and the Hale. So it's that same thing with the spending. The Centrals are kind of easy to call, honestly, and then the East and the West are a little bit tougher. AL East, I will say Yankees, but boy, is Baltimore going to be around their heels, and then the Red Sox are going to be better.
Yeah,
and so that's why you're getting multiple wild cards out of the East and West. West, Houston hangs on, but they're going to be like the weakest division winner, I think. And that division is kind of going to be kind of cluttered. I don't know if the A's are going to win it, but they're going to be higher up. Like they're going to be, within striking distance in August. They probably won't win the thing or anything, but they'll kind of be around just because I don't think it's going to be a very good division unless Texas figures out their offensive woes from last year. Same for Seattle. So there's at least competition. There's at least good divisions in the coast again, whereas the Centrals are a little bit decided for me. Like I could see Detroit being pretty darn good.
There you go, yeah.
But Cleveland's just a little bit better is all.
Nice. I like it. The Cy Young, I'm going to go Crochet with Cy Young.
Yeah, that's a good call. Shoot.
That's
cool.
You're right.
I got to go last. I got to go last, so I got a little bit of help.
I didn't pick a Cy Young. Did I? Okay.
You did not. No, you did not. Yeah.
Sorry. So Skeens. Let's go, Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's that darn good. And
Robbie Red.
Oh man.
The odds are good. I like Hazy. Who knows?
And let's see on the AL. Boy, that's a tougher group. That's but I could see depends how good Max Fried ends up as a Yankee, That's I know he's
Just
not
a
the
tough
type
ballpark
to
to
normally
pitch in, yeah.
not the type to normally win that thing. You're normally looking for Chris Sale, clearly, that type of guy more so. But yeah, I'll say that whoever somebody that we don't normally expect from the AL, it's gonna be like some younger pitcher.
How
That's
about
what I think.
DeGrom? Now that he's back.
No.
Okay.
That won't happen either.
Filthy.
All right. So someone a dark horse.
I get the I like the Scooble pick though. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That one's
for sure.
that one's pretty safe. I don't know. I'll always root for Corbin Burns. And
Yeah.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that.
But and he's over
He's
in
a St. Mary
Arizona
guy, isn't he?
now. He's in Arizona now. Yeah, he's a St. Mary's guy. But he's in Arizona now. So that's kind of think. I don't know if that was enough to get them back. Texas and Arizona both need something to kind of get them back. But they both made some changes. I would think Burns is, boy, that's a big lift for Arizona, to where they're going to be a little bit more in the Dodger side than I think some people give them credit for.
Yeah.
Gallen needs to pitch like he can.
Yeah, man, too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Crochet and then MVP. It's so hard to predict because the people who pick are so in love with WAR, and they kind of just rank order WAR.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pick that way. I'm going to pick the person who I think it might be. And
yeah,
I like your sexy pick of Lawrence Butler, but I'm not going to go that route. I hate to pick Aaron Judge again because at some point he'll be not able to do that. It's hard to know. I'll say Vlad Guerrero in a contract drive.
Okay.
That he goes crazy.
That's possible. Yeah.
Not a long shot, but could go either way, and that's why he's in a contract right now.
Yeah.
In the Central, I'm going to go with the Tigers just to make it a little bit spicy. So you guys would pick different people. So I'm going to go Tigers, and then in the West, I think the Mariners are going to have a little bit of luck this year because they haven't had a lot of luck the last couple of years, and so I think they'll be all right. Prepared to be wrong about all that because it's really even to me. And by the way, the Rangers could just go swamp everybody. Smash cut to Corey Seager being the MVP, and everybody like told you he was great, and that kind of thing. In the East, I like that Phillies pick a lot. I do, and I also know that Acuna is going to be healthy, hopefully again this year. And boy, when he plays, the Braves are dangerous.
Something else. Yeah, they're a different.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick Atlanta just because you picked Philly, and I don't want to follow you. I want to make it exciting.
That's a good call too. Yeah.
The Central is just like I have no idea what's going to happen there. Right? It's not going to be any of them, and it could be all of them. So I'm going to go really dark horse here, and I'm going to go Pirates because I'd like to see them finally get back in the playoffs. Please,
young team, go can cruise.
Yeah. Neil Cruz is great. Yeah, and then it's the Dodgers, obviously, right? Because they're a juggernaut. But I do think that the Diamondbacks are going to be dangerous, and I'd love to see Corbin Carroll get the MVP. I'd love to see him just run and hit and slash and just be a great, fun ball player, and just do that. So that'll be my guy for it's not likely to happen, but I would love to see him put that team on his back. Because I'm big on the story of the MVP. And look, you heard me say this with Rob. I don't want the Hank Aaron and the MVP to walk side by side unanimously all the time. I think that's lame.
No,
it's great. You're still MVP grade. You did a lot of great things, but Ohtani had a lot of help. I mean, there's 40 fucking pitchers on that roster last year. 40. They have unlimited resources. There are a ton of great guys. Mookie Betts was an MVP candidate until he got hurt. You're telling me that Ohtani did it by himself? No.
Well, most valuable. That's that value in the middle there. It's like if you take that guy, I almost like when they get hurt for a little bit, you're like, ooh, let's see how this team does without them for these 10 days. And then
how about Ketel Marte going down last year late in the season? MVP candidate until then. And the Diamondbacks didn't make the playoffs.
Once he hit that 50-50, though, it was kind of like, okay, well,
that was it.
First of its kind.
Yeah.
It was it.
Yeah.
It was it. My other out there pick, I think the Dodgers are going to win 120 games. And let me tell you why.
Because they're really fucking good?
Let me tell you why. Nope. Let me tell you why. What I noticed when they played in Japan is they weren't competing against the Cubs. They were competing with each other. Every guy out there is just, they want to make sure they feel like they have to deserve to be on that field with those guys. And it seems like they just, I mean, you got a sixth inning guy who's a stopper for another team. And that's why I say it. And the culture they've built out there is just amazing. There's no selfishness. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't care who they put out there, whether, of course, Freeman and Betts have to be Freeman and Betts. But my point being is, God, they don't look like anybody that comes in wants to be that guy that gives something up. And that's the only reason I say that. And so we'll see. I mean,
yeah, there's a level of the almost dream teamish competitiveness where it's like, okay, you gotta make sure I stay at the level of this group around me, and that confidence that you have of, yeah, I play on this team. Wow. Really amplifies that.
I better shut up, man. Robbie Ray, 120 wins. So I'm better
yeah.
Better shut up.
You have to go
Butler MVP, A's winning.
Lawrence Butler. Yeah, right. I want to add one more thing real fast, and then I'll shut up and let us get out of here. But I believe that in the future here, we're going to start to see these in-between pitchers, these not closers, sometimes closers. We're going to see these guys graduate up to the Hall of Fame ranks, because the Dodgers have a whole mess of closers on their team, right? Guys like Mike Jackson, who were just great at setting up the win and holding on to it. There's real value there. And if you want to see what this looks like, look at Darren O'Day's career, 600 innings of lights out. Nobody's ever pitched better baseball. And at some point you have to say, why isn't Darren O'Day in? Okay, short career, but his job is, in the context of his job, 600 innings of that level of ball.
Yeah,
man, that's among the greatest baseball players ever within the context of his very small job, right?
Yeah. He's a specialist, but
right.
Specialists in football can make the Hall of Fame. There's kickers and punters in the Hall of Fame. There's linemen, of course. Like it's the only I think it's the only spot like in a game where we'll never consider this guy to be in our Hall of Fame ever. He's some guy who was really good at the 7th and 8th, closed for a couple of years. Sergio Romo was never be a Hall of Famer, but holy crap, was he good at that for a long time.
Oh my God.
I think there's some other, famous, guy that closed for a few years, but, set up also for a long time. Yeah, that guy will just never, it's the weirdest thing, is right? That guy can't get, maybe from here on out, it can start to be considered a thing, but even just getting closers in, people are finicky about that.
Yeah. People aren't thinking that Jansen and Kimbrel are Hall of Fame grade guys, and they're right now sitting 3 and 4 all time in saves. And I don't know if Kimbrel's done. He might be.
Yeah,
but they're up there. And Jansen might approach Hoffman. I don't think he'll catch Hoffman, but if he did, he'd be like, yeah, he kept pitching.
Yeah, it's Hall of Fame's just weird with that sort of stuff. That third baseman apparently too. Like it's like there's not a whole because but that's maybe because a lot of guys move off of third to some other position later in their career. It's not playing third,
and it's like second base.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's
second base is weird like that too. It's a lower grade position, and guys don't stay there long, and so it is hard with those guys. Anyhow, Bunni, anything in closing before you wrap this thing up?
No, I'm excited for the baseball season. I'm excited for minor league ball, for the Ports, for Midland, for Vegas, just because the whole A's franchise is designed around that farm system and the developing and the players coming up. You don't know who's going to be the next great one. So for me, it's the minor league. It's the season. I mean, there's so much parity. It's going to be a fun year.
Yeah. Tim, in closing, anything?
I can't wait to go into that booth for the first time this year. And, I think I'll open in Fresno this year. Just go and close my eyes and just listen to baseball start for me. And that's always nice that going to the St. Mary's games, they recently got to where the mic feed that we pick up, natural sound in the ballpark is coming into me. I was like, oh yeah, let me turn that up for a minute. Oh, that's nice. Actually, it's a little loud. I just had that guy's conversation about what's going on in Walnut Creek. Let's turn it down a little bit more. Okay, so that just the smelling it, hearing it, feeling it, just being back in that booth. I'll never take that for granted. Put it that way.
I love it. All right, hang around, you guys. I'll say goodbye to you in a second. Everybody else, I'll see you tomorrow.